Hi everyone, it's Emma D Marketing. So just one of the first trainings from the consumer psychology course, and today I'm just going to quickly go through the 15 types of relationships between consumers and brands. So you received this the other day, and I'd just like to go through it with you if you don't mind, just on video, just so you can kind of get the whole idea. Some people prefer to read, and some people like to listen to audio or watch videos, so whichever one suits you. I just want to give you access to all three. So basically, Fournier, who is a prolific researcher and writer on marketing, came up with the idea of types of relationships between customers and businesses and brands. So brands really represent the business, so just not to forget that. So he came up with 50 after much research. So this is like a valid marketing typology that's used within marketing frequently. Kind of unfortunately in the online world we don't see it so much, but anyway, there's loads of different frameworks you can use, and I've just kind of chosen this one for today. So basically there's 15 types of relationships that are between consumers and brands. And the reason we use the metaphor of relationships with how there's a connection between a customer and a business is because there needs to be a relationship, and a good relationship in order for there to be a good dynamic, in order that the customer is happy to buy from you, in order that they perhaps will buy from you again, that they will refer you. So there needs to be a good relationship. And so we base human relationships as in a relationship between a man and a woman, or a woman and a woman, or a man and a man. But basically the metaphor is relationships, and often marriage is used in the context of explaining how the types of relationships you should have with your customers ideally. So I'll just go down through these, and the idea of these particular types of relationships are to understand what type of relationship you have with your customers, and also to understand if you've got different offerings. So if you've got different businesses, if you've got different products within your line, you need to understand each product, each business is entirely different, and there is a different relationship between every business and every customer. So just understand that. So you'll probably recognize even brands that you know, and even your relationship with certain items or products or services that you buy, and also you can recognize maybe your own business as well. So this is just to give you an outline of what can happen and the types of relationships within a marketing or within a business context. So the first one then is a committed partnership. And so this is a voluntary long-term relationship, such as when someone becomes an advocate for a brand of hiking boots after years of blister-free hiking. So you can see the idea here where somebody's been using a product or service for years and years and years, and it's worked for them time and time again. So in the case of the hiking boots, there's years and years of blister-free hiking. The person feels really affiliated with the brand. They know they can recommend the brand, the product, to their friends, to other people, because they have had an excellent experience. The same can be said if coaching, if you've given very good coaching to people, they will get results and they will feel very good about themselves, and you are creating a committed long-term relationship. And often what happens is they'll come back obviously to buy again and again, and they'll refer to you again and again. So this is really the ideal relationship within the context of a business relationship, so between the customer and the business. So a voluntary long-term relationship, it's a committed partnership. So I suppose really, what do you have to do as a business in order to provide that type of relationship? So you need to have very good value in terms of delivering on the benefits to the customer, and the customer needs to be thrilled to pieces that they have your brand, be it a product or service, or that they're using it. So it's a committed partnership. You can see the example there about the hiking boots. Equally, if you go to a hotel and you've had a super experience, you'll go back again and again. If you're using particular clothes that are durable, particularly for sporting people, they tend to stick with the same types of brands, be it for a skating board or a bike or whatever the case is. And it's something that's really important to them, and once they find the brand or the product or service that they really love, particularly in sport, they will be brand advocates forever, pretty much. Okay, marriage of convenience then is number 2. There is a chance encounter leading to a long-term bond. So when someone regularly uses a salad dressing after trying it at a friend's party. So the idea of this is it's kind of a marriage of convenience. So it's a chance encounter. So it's where customer uses your product or service without kind of meaning to in many ways, where this is the idea where the person is at a party at someone else's house and they use a salad dressing that maybe they wouldn't have used or tried in any case, and then they find they like it and they create a long-term bond. So it's like a chance encounter. So the same could be said if somebody lent you some perfume, some makeup, clothes, maybe you tried to use a service, maybe your own service was down for broadband or something, you try another one and you realize it's actually much better and you stay with that particular service. So there's loads of different examples you can use. So you've number one, the committed partnership, number two, the marriage of convenience. And I suppose, again, it's a case of how do you get your product or service in front of people to create a marriage of convenience? So if you look at, there's a good example for shampoos or for those types of products where they go into hotels and they give them for free in smaller sizes. And the reason for that is they want people to use them. It's of no cost to the person, really. They've hired the room in any case. They use it. If they like it, they'll have a good image of that product or service in their mind, and they're more likely to go and buy it again. But they may never have used that shampoo, for example, unless they actually went and stayed in a specific hotel. So you can see here where you've got to actually seed perhaps your product or service out into the public in order for it to be seen and in order for that chance encounter to occur. If you're an island, you're based on an island and nobody can get to it, they will not be able to get your product or service. So make sure that you're networking, that you're hustling, that you're marketing in order that people can come across your product or brand and in order they can have that chance encounter and the potential then for a long-term bond occurs. Number three then is a casual friendship, and this is there's few expectations and infrequent interactions, such as when infrequent breakfast eaters rotates between cereal brands without preferring a specific one. So we all do this where we have particular products we use, and breakfast cereal is a very good one where you kind of switch between one or the other and you don't really mind. Now some people obviously are really into their health and fitness and they don't, they stick to one particular brand, but typically speaking, research has shown that breakfast eating in particular, or even clothes, for example, certain things that you would buy, maybe, I don't know, chewing gum, pens, it's infrequent, you rotate, you don't really mind which brand you use, so it's a very casual friendship. And it's not like, for pens, for example, you wouldn't go on and on and on to your friends about, oh, I got this most amazing pen. It would have to be absolutely super duper, because it's something that you use on a regular basis. The same with toothpaste, the same with beans, kind of, those types of products where you use them. They're commodities in many ways. You use them on a regular basis. You switch brands because you really don't care. You just want them to work. A close friendship then relates to a bond through a sense of shared reward. So when a teenager believes his trainers to be a comrade in his sporting activities. This is a really important one to understand. So this again is looking at the solution, the benefit you give to your customer. So what do they get? And so there's a bond there. So for example, if you look at Nike, they've done a fantastic job around just do it. So that whole idea of just do it, get in there, do it. The idea that if you buy those trainers, you can then have the potential to be an Olympic champion. And that's kind of what their marketing is suggesting. Now, of course, you can have people that are far removed from being an Olympic champion, but in their minds, they're partially believing that there is the potential there, or that they can at least be the best person they can be in whatever sport it is that they're trying, even if you're just walking, just do it. The whole affiliation between excellent trainers and Nike is that there is a shared reward, there's bonding. So it's like the product in the case of the trainers and Nike trainers or other types of trainers that people go for. It's like the trainers become part of the person. They signify something to their friends and their family. So if they're wearing Nike, they're out running and they're doing what they can. It shows good character and all that sort of stuff. So close friendship, and this is a really good one to foster. So if you can foster the idea that there's a reward for using your product or service. So just have a think about that. What's the reward for using your product or service? What does the person get? And how does that amplify out towards their peers? So if I get coaching, if I get a tattoo, if I get some photography done with you, if I get my website done, whatever it is I get done, what's the reward? The reward can be I've got a fantastic website that I can showcase to everybody. The reward can be I've got the most amazing tattoo I can showcase to everybody. So it becomes part of me. So it becomes a very close friendship. So foster those friendships within your business and particularly within your marketing, and and also, and most importantly, in how you deliver to your products and services to your customer, because they will come back again and again. Okay, number 5 is compartmentalized friendship. And this is a specialized friendship dependent on a particular friendship situation. So this would be a man choosing his beer according to the group of people he's drinking with. So we all do this, if you're out with your colleagues from work, you may drink champagne, for example, and maybe you don't really like it, or you may drink wine, you don't really like it, or you prefer beer, or vice versa. You don't really like beer, but maybe you're joined a cycling group and they're all into beer, and you drink beer even though you don't really like it as well. So it's dependent on the specialized friendship. The same can be between couples, the same can be between certain friendships, or indeed if you're at a business meeting or whatever. It's compartmentalized friendship. You might use a certain water, you might drink a certain coffee. So it's a very specialized friendship, and it's dependent on a particular friendship situation. So again, have a look at your own businesses, have a look around you, be very aware of these, and start to kind of really read these. I'd recommend that you read this list literally every week for the next couple of weeks, if you can set some time apart, and really take in what they all stand for, because you might laugh at them, and they are funny in the sense of how you can recognize the relationships, human relationships, from what I'm saying here, but you can see how there's a parallel to your business, and how important it is to understand the type of friendship, the type of relationship that you have with your product or service, the type of relationship your customer has with your product or service. And also just to point out as well, that as a business owner, you can be very swayed towards being positive about that relationship. So you need to do some investigation, you need to do some research and see what your customers think, and not just what you think your customers think. And that's usually important to do as well. Kinship is an involuntary union, such as when a cook feels obliged to use the same kind of flour her mother uses. So this kind of goes back to the whole thing, your family, you can't get rid of your family, they're there forever, that type of an idea. And basically this is where a person grows up and they've always used the same flour, so they just use it again and again because they can't get their head around, oh, I could use something else, so this is an involuntary union. You can see the same with maybe cars, or sometimes it depends really, and it's really dependent on the person as well. But you can definitely see situations where somebody uses the same sugar, the same brand of milk, the same, different commodities usually, where there's an involuntary union. The person is using it just because it's easy, just because it's always been done, So, and I suppose the difficulty can be is if your product or service is in that category, how do you get the person to switch? How do you get the person to change? How can you help them to understand that this is, you've got a fabulous product or service and it is much better than the type of flour that they're using right now? A good example is going back to the 50s, I think it was, and Nescafe were trying to break into the American market. And what they found was they had an instant coffee, and at the time it didn't do very well at all when they brought it out into the market first. And they couldn't figure out because, ground coffee was harder to make. They didn't have kind of the paraphernalia that we have nowadays to make ground coffee, and it was kind of one of these things that was an extra thing to do for families. Women didn't really have washing machines, and they had so much to do in the household, typically. And I'm saying women because typically it was women. There obviously was men as well, but basically the idea was that instant coffee was supposed to help them, and that was good coffee, and could provide them with their drink without all the work. However, sales just weren't doing what they should have been doing. So they did some market research, and what they figured out was that what was very important to people at the time, the value system to citizens of the United States at the time, was that having a good work ethic was really important, particularly amongst mothers. So, they have to have a clean house, that they were seen to work hard, they were seen to look after their families and to hit certain criteria. And one of the things that they thought about the coffee was that if you bought instant coffee and used it, you were lazy. That's what people thought. So they had to do a whole lot of marketing. So Nescafe took this on board. They did a whole lot of marketing, and they repositioned. So they remarketed the instant coffee. And what they started doing was, in their ads was showing that if you use instant coffee, that it gives you more time with your family. If you use instant coffee, it then allows you to do more washing. If you use instant coffee, you can now hoover more. So the whole idea being that it actually frees you up to do things that you need to do. And it changed the mindset and the attitudes and values of people around that, just around coffee in any case, and it became more popular, and they increased their sales significantly because of that. And you can see the brand is still around today. So understand the kinship, understand how do people feel, is it an involuntary union? What sort of relationship does your product or service have with your customer? A rebound relationship then is where an air freshener, for example, where a relationship has broken up, for example, like a wife and the husband break up, and then there was an air freshener that they used all the time, and the association being for the wife, if she's still in the home or whoever's left in the home, is that you're remembering all the times with your ex-partner, so they switch. So you can see where there's a rebound relationship where somebody used to use something a lot, and then they change because it reminded them of something else. So even, you can see if you lost somebody, if somebody passes away or whatever the case is, you may switch certain products because it reminds them of that person. So a rebound relationship there, just again to understand that one. Childhood friendship then is number 8. And it's about the brand evoking childhood memories. And a lot of us have these, so in this example, orange juice brand, somebody buys it because they've always had it in their childhood, and it reminds them maybe of sunny mornings, being with their grandparents, or I don't know, something like that. Some chocolate as well. I've come across a few Curly Wurly, if you've ever heard of them. I came across them recently, and I was telling my daughter, I used to eat these when I was young, and she thought I was nuts. But anyway, she couldn't understand, that it signified kind of me going into the shop, and I was kind of her age and kind of meeting these people that I kind of had forgotten about, really. And they've actually passed away since, and the shop that doesn't even exist now. And I kind of forgotten that whole era. And when I see this chocolate, it brings to mind that type of era, and going visited my grandmother and everything just by eating Curly Wurlies. Who knew? So childhood friendship is one to understand as well. Number 9 then is courtship. Courtship is testing before commitment, and you can see the correlations here. Such as when a woman checks out 2 perfumes before committing. So we all do this, you check out perfumes, you check out cars, you check out clothes, brands, for example. You check out different varieties, and then you decide on committing. And this is usually where you use something on a regular basis, such as perfume. So the perfume signifies something about you to others. So you want to be careful about what you choose. So you will check probably more than 2, really. And you'll go and you'll check and you'll check. And then when you're happy, you will decide, and that will be the one that you will stick to. So understand that courtship level as well. Dependency then relates to obsessive attraction. So when a man is really upset when his favorite beer is not in stock. So this is where somebody loves a brand, a product or service, and they get really upset when it's not available. So, beer, wine, jewelry, it covers a multitude, but you can see where, you often see where, particularly men, sometimes they get really into their cars or stuff, and if something isn't available, like a part or something, they get really upset, and they're really dependent on that brand, on that business, to provide them with what they need. So just see, does your business fall into this? If it does, yay, because you have really, really good customers that will come back to you time and time again. A fling, the other thing is don't not have it in stock. Number 11 then is a fling is a short-term relationship, such as when a woman uses a different brand of perfume for a particular event and then feels guilty. So this is really where it's a one-off, the person, and again, you can see the correlation, but it's where somebody uses something and they just never use it again. So it could be a case of perfume, it could be a case of you borrow a really, really expensive dress off somebody and you never use it again. You rent it perhaps. There's so many different examples, and it's really just to understand, is your product fitting into this? And you hope not, because you obviously want them to use it more than once. Adversarial relationship reflects bad feelings, such as a customer refusing to buy a brand of computer that they hate. Now, this often happens where people get into their head that they hate a particular brand or service or whatever. It could be they hate going to McDonald's just because of everything that it signifies, so they'll never go to McDonald's. It could be that they hate organic food on the other side of the scale, and they'll never go to anywhere that sells organic food. Brands of computers, for example, strangely can bring up feelings of emotion where somebody hates it, and really it's just a brand, but they hate what it signifies. So somebody might hate Microsoft, they might hate Apple. Apple can sometimes be considered to be elitist, so somebody could hate it on the basis of that, so they'll never use an Apple product just because of that. So people get into their mind the most strange ideas. So understand the type of relationship that your customer has with your product or service. Naturally, you do not want an adversarial relationship with your product or service. So number 13 is enslavement. It's an involuntary forced relationship, such as when a pensioner is unhappy with a local bank. So this is kind of a sad situation where somebody, an older person is a member of a bank, and because they can't get to the next town to open a new account, they can't really change provider. So it's an involuntary forced relationship. So this probably doesn't happen so much anymore because we have so much choice and so much access to the internet. But you can see where sometimes maybe it's a doctor, maybe it's particularly pharmacy, or something locally that you need to get, and it's very few providers for it, and you really don't like going there. And again, for your customers, make sure again that this is not happening for your customer. Number 14 is a secret affair. So private risky affairs, such as when someone indulges in their favorite food, hiding it from their partner. Now, this type of behavior is quite prevalent, particularly when you look at the level of obesity in the world at the moment. So where somebody's indulging in their favorite food and they're hiding it from their family and friends, but I mean, really, it's quite obvious, if they're putting on weight, that they are indulging at some point. So it's a risky affair. So just to understand, is your product or service a risky affair? And how do people go about buying it? I remember one time I worked in an off-license briefly while I was equally working with another company, and I was absolutely astonished about the amount of women that came in and clearly were, had a drink issue, in that they were buying drink in the middle of the day, and they were very their whole manner was a case of, they opened the bag and they were like looking for naggins of vodka, for example, like, there's the smaller bottles, so it would fit in the bag so nobody would know, and they had to put a brown paper bag over it so it wouldn't clink, where they were buying a couple of them. I was absolutely shocked, and over the course of time, the same people were coming in every week, and really, their skin looked really bad, and they obviously did have, an issue around alcohol, and this is where they were indulging it, and obviously they're hiding it, so this is where they're buying it. So does your product or service, like cigarettes, food, even clothes, where women are going out buying clothes and they're hiding it from their partner. So is your customer having a secret affair with your product or service? Just to understand that as well, and understand the whole thought process around that, and how you can help them maybe to tell people, maybe perhaps. Number 15 is an arranged marriage. So it's a long-term bond imposed by someone. Example, wax recommended by your furniture maker. This is kind of an obvious one in some ways, where it's something that you're told to use. You don't know of any other alternatives, so you just keep using it, such as wax recommended by your furniture maker. It could be something, wax for your car. If I go in particular with cars, I have no clue. So if somebody tells me to use it, I just use it, because I don't know what else is out there. So I don't know what else to look for. And to be honest, with something like that, I couldn't be bothered probably looking. So just, arranged marriage, is your product or service falling into this category? Okay, so that's the 15 types of relationships that your product or service can have with your customers. Where do you fall into? Let us know, please. They're quite interesting. You can laugh at some of them, obviously, but it's quite serious in the context of your business. Where does your product or service fall into? And just be very aware of this, and do go over this. It's very important to read over this, to get it into your head, because you will start going out and you'll be using products and services yourself as a customer, and you'll start to realize this is the type of relationship that you have with this product or service, and how has that come about? And just bring that back to your own business and see, okay, well, how does this relate to your business? How can I change this? How can I market or remarket or reposition my product or service so that people would look at it in a different way? Okay, this is really important to understand. If you have any questions, please ask me in the Facebook group or drop me an email. Delighted to help, and I hope you found this helpful. Thank you so much.